welcome. I'm Natalie Davis. I graduated from here in December 2013. I am going to start by telling you just kind of about my weird background. I actually started off in the medical field. I was going to pursue the medical field. I have a chemistry degree from Olaf College in Minnesota. Did really well, graduated with honors, was about to take my MCAT, but I won Miss Minnesota and competed at Miss America my senior year and thought, I'm missing out on a lot of stuff that I really like. So I decided not to go that route, and I went back to St. Cloud State for Mass Comm. And I'll be totally honest, I went here because it was convenient. I live south of here. I grew up in a small town called Dassel, about 40 minutes south of here, and my little brother was here at school. My mom works in St. Cloud, and so I thought, okay, I'll just like move home, save some money, get my degree, bam, bing, bang, boom, get out. But I had no idea what this place had to offer. Like, I had no idea about the awards, about the incredible equipment they had, the incredible teachers they had, so it was very serendipitous that I ended up going here. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I graduated in December 2013. A few months before that, I lined up my job in Topeka, Kansas. I worked at KSNT in Topeka as the weekday morning anchor and reporter for 2 years. I also, toward the end of my tenure there, was promoted to executive producer. So that was a really great experience. They offered me the evening anchor position. I decided, I don't want to do that. So I was trying to get back to Kansas City. I was commuting over an hour to get to my job in Topeka, going to bed at 3 p.m., waking up at 11:30 p.m., in the car 2.5 hours a day. I was kind of over it. And my husband's a med student at KU in Kansas City, so he couldn't move. I needed to move. So I ended up getting a job at KCTV 5 in Kansas City, where I'm currently the weekend morning anchor, and then I report during the week. And I either MMJ or I have a photographer, just depending on the day and the story. So I have 1,001 things I would love to talk to you about today. You guys all have the sheets that I made, right? So what I did is I picked kind of like 3 broad topics that I'm going to talk to you about, and then I just did like a word vomit on there, and maybe it'll spark some questions that you guys have for me. I'm here to stay as long as you need, as long as you want, so you can get some good information to get you ready for the workforce out there. So I'm going to start just with the basics of communication. That's kind of the main topic. Appearance, first of all, hair, clothing, makeup. You want to look good if you're going to be on camera. About half of you want to be on camera, so you always want to be ready. You know, there are some days you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, I really don't feel like trying today. I'm just not going to do all of my makeup and all of my hair, but you might be put on a really fantastic story that day, and you're going to want that for your reel, and you're going to be like, crap, I love that story, except I look like crap in that. Then you're not going to put that in your reel. So make it a priority to look as good as you can, to dress professionally. And it's also about how you carry yourself too. You're going to be interacting with a lot of people, some people who are really happy to talk to you and some people who do not want to talk to you at all. So trust me, half of my job is getting people to try to talk to me. So you always want to carry yourself with professionalism and kindness too. You never want to be mean or get into anybody's face. And just, look, dress, act the part. I want to talk a little bit about voice too, especially the fact that you guys are Minnesotans and many of you have a Minnesotan accent. Tough love here, I encourage you to try to neutralize that thing. I watch a lot of clips of UTVS and things like that, and you want to try to develop that authoritative, more neutral voice, because your first job might be in Virginia, or your first job might be in Florida, or somewhere where it just doesn't make sense. And I would say the same thing to someone who had like a thick Louisiana accent. You've got to try to neutralize it, because it's a lot more authoritative to say, breaking news, there's a fire happening in Minneapolis, versus breaking news in St. Cloud State University, all these students are going to, it's different. It's more authoritative if you work on that voice. So I would encourage you to do that. Words, you've probably heard this from both Mark and Reg. Keep it simple, stupid. You are not trying to impress anybody with a huge vocabulary. You're trying to keep it simple and take sometimes very complex situations, if you're dealing with something out of city council or dealing with something political, and breaking that down into something as simple as possible for your audience to digest in a minute 15, minute 30. So our limit at my station is about a minute 20, plus you're live in and out. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that words have power. Sometimes you might be, wanting to dramatize something or, make it seem really important, but you also have to remember that you need to catch people's attention without kind of stretching the truth. So keep that in mind as well. The third point of communication is movement, and for me that means 2 things. First of all, it's your video. That's kind of the physical piece of your storytelling. You want to write to your video. You don't want to describe every little thing that's happening, obviously, but you want your video to pair really nicely with your words. And so for that, I have a little example for you. I just very roughly cut these, so sorry they aren't perfect, but this is a story. I interviewed a third grade class about a soccer field that they were gifted by our pro soccer team in Kansas City.
Kids at Olaf College Elementary School have a new place to play soccer, all thanks to Sporting KC. Natalie Davis shows us it was a third grader at Olaf College Elementary School who really got the ball rolling.
It's a beautiful day to play some soccer. Take a look down here and you'll see the grass is pretty raggedy, but over there through that fence, it is pristine. You'll see some neighbor kids hop the fence, checking out this new soccer field at Overland Park Elementary School, but it took a lot of work to get it here. Measuring, mowing, painting the lines, and setting up the goals. The grounds crew for Sporting KC left Children's Mercy Park for the afternoon to get this field ready for the kids at Overland Park Elementary. But the work began long before today with 8-year-old Noah Wilson.
We need help getting soccer goals because we can't afford them.
He and his classmates had to play soccer on a concrete basketball court.
People got hurt a lot and we didn't have nets, so the ball would just go everywhere, and it's a small field and a lot of kids play soccer.
After a frustrating day at recess, Noah decided he had to do something about it. So he made a video, wrote a nice note, and sent them to Sporting KC.
1, 2, 3, 4!
And the pro soccer team delivered both a field and a visit from some of its players.
I saw the video that he sent in and I was really touched by his passion.
We're fortunate to be in this position where we can give back a little bit.
It's clear. Noah is the MVP.
I was really excited, and it was an opportunity that a lot of kids don't get to do.
I talked with a lot of Noah's classmates today, and they really do love him. They're so excited to have this beautiful soccer field so they can play just like the athletes at Sporting KC. In Overland Park, Natalie Davis, KCTV 5 News.
All right, so I MMJ'd most of that. I got a photographer joined up with me kind of toward the end to help me edit and get it ready for the live shot. But you'll notice that I was all over the place. I wasn't afraid, I didn't just stand on the sidelines. There was one reporter there who just stood on the sidelines and sprayed it. I actually got on the field. I put the camera on my shoulder. I got up to those kids as they went Bulldogs. I, followed along the crowd. I got on my knees. I was wearing a dress that day, you saw. I was down on my knees with my camera. So don't be afraid to move while you're shooting, and then also write to your video. And it's not just your video, it's your nat sound. You'll notice some of the nat pops with the kids cheering, some of the nat pops with the lawnmower going. So just think about how you're going to tell your story, because that video element has a huge role in that as well. Also, active live shots. You want to show something. I'll be honest, this is something I'm still working on. Sometimes there's not a whole lot of active you can do in a certain story. Sometimes I hugely depend on my photographer. Like if there's a crime scene behind me, I obviously can't cross the crime tape line and start showing people things because I get arrested. So a lot of times I depend on my photographer to pan away from me and zoom into what I'm talking about. So that's another communication thing. That's a way you can make a live shot active. This is an example of, I'll just show you, I'll show you the whole story. This is a story I did last week, and it's pretty emotional, so I think you can learn some things from it, but notice the active live shot in the beginning too.
It's a crime that's left many local families in tears. The graves of their loved ones disturbed, all by thieves after a quick buck. At New at 6, KCTV 5's Natalie Davis explains why the loss to these families can be measured by money. Take a look at these rows of headstones and vases. It almost seems like the thieves went along the road, checking each vase one by one until they were able to detach one and steal it. Now, if you take a look over here, you'll see these flowers are now shoved into the hole where that vase once was. It's hard enough losing a loved one without then having to deal with this.
They were out like that.
I'm feeling angry. I'm really upset over it.
The graves of this woman's father, grandparents, and great-grandparents defiled.
This is a horrible thing to do to somebody.
The same horrible thing happened to the grave of this woman's baby girl.
I think it's just terrible. It's disgusting. It makes me sick. I mean, this is my baby, and you stole from her.
The flowers left to honor loved ones are no longer in beautiful bronze vases, but shoved in the hole that was left behind. These holes pepper the grounds at Maple Hill Cemetery. Owner Mike Natalie says he's counted about 240 so far, but he keeps discovering more.
I take a lot of pride in taking care of this place, and I just hope I can get this resolved soon.
Maple Hill isn't the only place that's been hit in recent weeks, though.
There's, what, 10 of them?
Highland Park Cemetery, just 10 minutes away, is missing around 150.
Well, it just made me sick to my stomach. I saw that and I looked at it and I'm going, no, this can't possibly be happening.
What hurt Karen the most, though, was seeing how much it hurt her 91-year-old mother.
If you could say something to the people who stole these vases, what would you say?
I say, I wish that God would change you and let you understand what you're really doing is hurting and not helping.
Hurting so many people who just want to honor their loved ones with a beautiful memorial. Police say these types of cases are tough to crack. For example, if someone steals your laptop, there's a specific ID number associated with it. But if you take a look at all of these vases, more or less, they really look the same. It's going to be hard to figure out where they came from or who they belong to if they do ever turn up. In Kansas City, Natalie Davis, KCTV 5 News.
So the active in the beginning, when you get to a scene in a story, it's always good to kind of be thinking and writing as you go. And so that was the first thing I noticed, is that you would, oh, it's not even my station. Okay. Oh, that's weird.
It's a crime.
Oh, okay. Sorry, figured it out. But you're gonna wanna be thinking and writing as you go because you're in such a time crunch. And so for me, my first thought was like, oh, if I was a thief, it would make sense to just like grab all the ones on the side and then go. But they didn't do that because some of them were locked in so well. So I found a row that had some vases still there. Why were they still there? Well, they probably couldn't pull them out, and some that were missing. So I tried to create that visual there. At the end, I had a little prop with the laptop telling you what police had told me, which is it's really hard to crack. It's not a laptop, it's just a vase, and so many of them look alike. So be thinking of things like that. It's not always going to be so obvious. Question?
How did you get the families to like how did you contact them?
Well, okay, so it's funny. I was on this story initially the day before this, and then they switched me to another just awful, god-awful story about child sodomy. But anyway, they put me back on the story the next day, and we have a Facebook group. It's not ours, but there's a Facebook group in Kansas City called Stolen KC, and I had already been out there to see kind of what it looked like, so I had some pictures, and I'd been trying to get the funeral, the cemetery to connect me with some victims, but they weren't really delivering. So I went on Stolen KC and I posted, I said, hey, missing bronze vases from this cemetery. I'm looking for victims to talk to or people to react to this with me on camera. Are you interested? And a ton of people responded. Now the bad side of that is then I tipped off Channel 41 and Channel 4 and they met me out there too and they were getting the story. But I stuck out there long enough, I got way better people. They kind of came, mooched off the people I'd found initially and then left. But then I found more. So I actually, the woman who had the 91-year-old grandmother, she came, she didn't have anybody stolen there, but she's like, no, this happened at this other cemetery 10 minutes away. And so she brought me there, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna go back and see if anybody came by. I was actually driving down to the cemetery. I was meeting that woman whose baby's vase was stolen. Her friend contacted me on Facebook and we exchanged numbers and said, okay, meet me at this time. But then when I was driving and following her to where her baby's gravestone was, there was this woman in this yellow car and she had just come, she saw it on Facebook and she found out her father, her grandparents, and her great-grandparents all stolen, and she was crying and she saw me in my marked car and she's like, they're all gone. Like she rolled down her window and tried to talk to me, and so I said, you know, follow me, and she got out of her car and I convinced her to talk to me on camera. So sometimes it's just plum luck, other times it's social media, trying to figure out if anybody's willing to talk to you. That is half the battle. Yeah, Mark.
I do want you to talk more about how you use social media and Facebook and whatnot, but where do these people sell those vases?
The cemetery, I think the cemetery sells them, or funeral homes will sell them.
I mean the people that stole them, where do they?
Oh, they'll like melt it down and they'll sell them to scrap yards. Scrap yards, when I called scrap yards that day, nobody wanted to talk to me.
Of course not, yeah.
Nobody wants to talk to the media if it makes them look bad.
Made out of what?
Bronze.
Bronze.
So you can sell it for money. And scrap yards are not supposed to take these vases and sell them, but a lot of times like you just dump them on a weighted thing and they just take them and they don't really look at what they are. So yeah, I mean, minute 20 we didn't get into all of that, and I had so much great sound from people. Really all you can do at that point, how I convinced them to talk is like, look, you're probably never going to get these vases back. There's not going to be a way to track them, but if these thieves or future pending thieves see your emotional reaction to this, maybe it'll make them think twice or feel guilty, and that's why she's like, Amanda, the girl who was kneeling over her grave and sobbing, that's why she's like, okay, I'll talk. So, I don't always get that lucky. Rebecca?
Did you do it in one day?
Yeah. Yep, I did. I had a little bit of video that I'd gotten the day before they switched me off my story to a different one, which happens a lot. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, but that was a day turn. Yep. Okay. And we'll have more time for questions later too. Next, I want to talk about journalism. Who's heard of the word enterprise? You have? Okay, good. Okay, this is a word that just was not on my radar when I was in school. And granted, I came and I hammered out my degree in like a year and a half, and I was like, get in, get out, go. So that may be why. But enterprise, if you hadn't heard of this word, it's digging up your own stories. It's not taking a story from The Wire. It's not taking a story that was already in the Star Tribune. It's sourcing and digging and reading city council agendas and reading legislative agendas and trying to find a story out of that. So it's something that I wish I would have learned a little bit more about when I was in school, how to dig and how to really, who to call in what situation, who to contact in what situation that is going to end up coming with experience. Who do I contact in city government about XYZ or county government or state government? So it's just something I wanted to like throw out and put on your radar as something to ask questions about and get experience doing. Get used to reading your city council agendas, get used to learning about politics and things like that. And sourcing, yeah, try to get to know your city council members. Try to develop relationships with people on social media. I just created my own professional Facebook profile. I had like a fan page, but I realized that I couldn't reach out to people, like message them using that fan page. So I was using my Natalie Christine, which is like my personal one, and it tells you who I'm married to, and I just didn't want to do that. So I made my own Natalie Davis, and I'm just accepting all the friends. Once in a while I'll get somebody who will post like porn, and I'm like, okay, unfriend, block, report. But in general, you just try to like get to know as many people as you can, but at the same time being safe about it. Don't be stupid, don't meet anybody in a dark alley, okay? Promise? Yeah. I still need to buy some mace. I keep telling myself I need to do that. It's on my list. Storytelling. You've seen some examples of my storytelling. Keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Don't try to impress anybody with how smart you are. Impress people with how smart you are, that you can take something very complex and simplify it. Hi! I have every doucha from this man my semester in his class. The doucha is when you get a good grade. Hi. Okay, keep it simple. Make it more than about just the nuts and bolts. Sometimes a story's just not going to work for you that day. Like, you're just going to hit dead end after dead end. You're not going to find anybody to talk to. And it's going to have to be about the nuts and bolts of what happened. There was a fire here. Here's some firefighter sound. It's really sad. We're still waiting for an update on the victim. And it's going to be that way. But if you can, try to tell your story using people, interesting people who react to a bad situation, people involved in a situation. And so I want to give you two stories. Well, before I say this, it involves being gutsy enough to just approach everybody. The worst they can say is no, or like cuss at you. It's happened. Be polite, everybody. But just talk to as many people as you can. Don't be afraid to approach a bunch of people. You're going to get way more no's than you're going to get yeses. But every yes you get is an opportunity. And don't stop at like, okay, I got 2 people who would talk to me. Because their sound might not be that good. Like, try to get more than you need so that you can tell a really compelling story. So here's one story I did on the Kansas caucus, voting in the primary. Enough like we need to, 46 is where it starts.
The Republican caucus was supposed to last from 10 to 2 today, but the last person just cast their vote a little bit before 4 o'clock. Let me tell you, this place was packed today. Hundreds of people inside at any given time, and the line stretched out the door all the way around this building. A pep talk from the site chairman at Olathe South High School as people stood or sat in line for hours. But despite the wait, the mood was good. Everyone was bound and determined to make their vote count. Even 86-year-old Adeline Owens.
I was determined to vote even if I didn't have my
It's a risk she took for one simple reason.
because and every year I try to exercise that right.
Yeah.
Actually, about something in our country if we don't go out and vote. So I was determined to do that today.
The Republicans today have plenty to run about. They want change. worried about the future of our country.
Another 4 or 8 years left ahead, and the United States is going to be a third world country instead of the first world country, I think.
And that worry pushed thousands out to caucus today.
The enthusiasm, the energy is on the Republican side this year. People with this administration in Washington, D.C., they want change, they want something different.
With the turnout as big as it was today, they're hoping they can get the change they desire.
I think I should be smiling at the end.
Numbers for today aren't in yet, but a source I have with the Kansas Republican Party says they're projecting 3 times that amount. Apparently the turnout's pretty great for Democrats in Kansas too. I'll toss it over to Elizabeth Register.
Who was the most memorable character in that story? The old lady, right? I was done. I had all my sound I needed to make a story. I had the people being like, we want change. We can't have another 4 years with someone like Obama. You know, I had that. I could have made a story just fine. And I had a photographer for part of the time. He had to leave to go deal with the Democratic side, and I was just getting some like last minute B-roll. And this old lady was there. And I was like, I don't really need anything else, but I'm going to talk to her. And she gave me that great sound. That woman, these lines were huge. She might have run out of oxygen trying to vote. So that was a memorable character I wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't decided to do that little bit of extra work. So keep that in mind. Don't just do what's good enough. Always try to get a little bit more. And here's another story. This involved me knocking on a ton of doors. Hi! Sorry, I'm really excited to see people that I know. It's like memory lane. This involves knocking on a lot of people's doors and just trying to convince people to talk to me. Got a lot of no's, but I also got a lot of yeses.
100 families in Olathe are relying on bottled water tonight because they're not sure about the lead levels in their tap water. KCTV's Natalie Davis is live in that neighborhood where many are wondering how serious this problem is. Natalie.
City crews have been delivering water bottles to people in the Ridgeview South neighborhood since late last night, and the city has promised them as many water bottles as they need until they can make sure the water here is safe. Meanwhile, neighbors tell me all they can do is worry and wait. A preliminary test shows there could be lead in the water, so the city of Olathe isn't taking any chances. They're asking residents for samples so they can test again and make sure the water is safe.
It makes me concerned to see how long it's been going on and then, all of a sudden it's don't consume.
The city says don't drink it, don't cook with it.
Now we're in panic mode because we've been drinking the water. How long has this been going on? How long have we been exposed to this?
Kelly Monks promptly switched to bottled water for her family, including her dog. She's especially concerned about the health of her 4-year-old son, Owen. She's already called his pediatrician to get him tested for lead.
There's so many small children in this neighborhood. What do we do?
Kelly's next-door neighbors are expecting a baby girl in August. If there is lead in the water, what does that mean for their unborn child?
Just now finding out that there's lead in
talking.
We
could totally mute the sound for this and just have
He has 8 grandchildren that visit often. He's keeping them away from city water.
You're seeing some of the other parts of the country having trouble. You kind of wonder how bad it's going to affect everybody, but there's not much you can do about it.
All residents can do is wait. Is complete.
I just hope everyone turns out okay, and this is resolved quickly, and we get answers fast.
As you can see behind me, there's a big group of kids playing, and they have soccer, got some little cheerleaders over here. Eventually, they're going to need some water, and luckily for now, the city is providing as much water as residents need until those test results come back 5 days from now. As soon as we get those results, we'll make sure to deliver that message to you. Live in Olathe, Natalie Davis, KCTV 5 News.
And just so you know, the water's okay. Tests were fine. But that was another good example I want to point out. Process language, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Obviously, there are going to be some loose ends hanging from a story like this. So me saying, hey, we're going to keep you updated. We're taking care of you. It's a good thing to keep in mind. One big thing, and this is going to involve a bunch of video I show you, a big part of your job is going to be holding the powerful accountable. We're talking politics, we're talking government leaders, and you're going to find yourselves sometimes in a lot of really uncomfortable situations where you really don't want to piss off the city manager, but you're gonna. I've become that person at my station. The first thing I want to show you is something that I did in Topeka. I had an exclusive sit-down interview with Governor Sam Brownback, and we did it as live to tape, and it aired as like a 30-minute special. I'm just going to show you about 5 minutes of it. I'll skip through it. What I did was the next day after the special aired is I had a political analyst on our morning show, and we broke it down. So a big part of your job is going to be taking really complex issues that many people won't understand, breaking it down so they can understand, and that's going to be part of holding the powerful accountable. So I'm going to skip through. I won't make you listen to the political analysis, but this is how I broke down. Education's a really big deal. If you follow the news nationally, you'll know that Kansas is under fire for for its governor and for the topic of education. So,
Down with Kansas Governor Sam Brownback for an exclusive interview this week. KSNT is partnered with our sister station in Wichita, KSN, to discuss the tough issues facing our state. For 30 minutes, we
I think that was funny. We need to put that as our first one.
federal reform and states' rights, and possibly the most controversial issue in the state right now, education funding. I'm joined by our KSNT News political analyst, Dr. Bob Beatty. Bob, thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
I want to start with education and the contention over the new block grant funding system. Bob, according to the Kansas Speaks Spring 2015 Public Opinion Survey, almost 2/3 of respondents felt that the state block grant system actually lowered the quality of education in Kansas. But Governor Sam Brownback thinks that the block grants are actually a good thing for Kansas schools. Here's why.
Prior, whenever you lost student enrollment, well, you had a loss of funding from the state. But yet your costs are pretty fixed by that point in time. Well, now that money isn't taken away by the state. You keep it because basically, really, your costs are set.
Now, here's the deal. People opposed to block grant funding, though, are saying exactly the opposite. They say it froze funding, so if enrollment increases, schools actually lose money. What's your take?
Well, this is very common.
and then he talks for a while.
A lot
So I'm pointing out the governor's BS,
here was something that the legislature covers
holding him accountable.
two sides
Governor Brown.
about this reform.
Okay, yeah, I asked Governor Brownback what he thinks about education in Kansas right now. Listen, do you feel that the quality of education in Kansas is where it should be?
No, I think it needs to be better. I think we need to get more money into the classroom. I think the average teacher's salary needs to go up for the state. I think we need to get more merit pay. Most of that money's gone into front office cost, it's gone into administration.
You know, at least he's admitting that quality's not where it needs to be, and it's not, Bob.
Well, again, the context is a lot of the word I like to use is acronym in the government.
And he gives some examples. He follows this. Let's see.
Some of the things that they want, that they argue, they would have got under the old formula.
Yeah, a lot of distrust with teachers. You know, 500 teacher openings in Kansas 1 month before school started. Incredible. Schools were forced to close early. Missouri's recruiting on teachers. Speaking of Kansas teachers, Bob, things got very tense when I brought up this next issue. Listen, back to the focus on the classroom. That involves teachers and students. And I have a quote here from a teacher who's worked in the community here in Kansas for more than a decade. They described teachers' relationship with lawmakers and you as abusive. They said, quote, sadly, in the end, a lot of teachers, even school districts, are so afraid of further cuts, they just shut up and let him continue his lies, which is how abusers get power, rather than standing up and saying something because they don't want to get hit again. What's your reaction to that?
Continuous cuts. Has it been? I mean, you said in your own numbers it hasn't been continuous cuts that we've taken.
The number of dollars has increased, but it hasn't been sustainable with the rate of inflation. You mentioned merit pay as a possibility for teachers, and teachers don't trust that. How do you regain teachers' trust in Kansas? I know that's your desire.
It is, and I would appreciate, I thank you actually for citing that money has increased to K-12, because I think if you ask the general public, do you think money to K-12 has increased or decreased over the last 5 years? Most would say it's decreased.
But it's not in a sustainable way.
But it has increased, has it not?
So uncomfortable to watch and remember that moment. Very tense. Bob, the big controversy, he says funding has increased, but education advocates say it has not increased in any sustainable way. I want to take a look at these numbers from the Kansas Association of School Boards. They compiled these from government data. Take a look. The data shows that the number of dollars going into education has gone up in the past 6 years by $283 million, but it's only increased at half the rate of inflation. Plus, if you take a look at that money, more than 65% of it has gone into capers and into bond and intrastate aid. Of course, those are important programs, but they are not part of the classroom. Governor Brownback says he'd like to see that change, but Bob, it seems like he's got a long way to go.
So A lesson in this is it's scary talking to the governor. You just want to be like, yes, yes, whatever you say, but you can't take what these people say at face value. Don't be mean to them. You know, I gave him this quote from this teacher, which clearly pissed him off, but I didn't accuse him of that. I asked, what's your reaction to that? And so my lesson for you is, especially if you're going to go, and I had a lot of time to prep for this story. You won't have this much time to prep for every story you're given every day, but know your facts and be able to challenge what they're saying. Don't just take it for face value. Listen to what they're saying and make sure it's not contradicting what's actually happened, and be able to break down and compare, like, you know, here's what the governor said, but look, here's what we've dug up.